All right, everyone. Good morning. We are so happy to see your beautiful faces here at our Bellingham Public Library and to learn more about home sharing in Bellingham. My name is Kathleen, and I'm a development specialist with the City of Bellingham. I'm going to let my colleague here introduce herself as well.
Hi, everyone. I'm Taylor, also a development specialist. I work with Kathleen. And we're gearing this a lot towards people who are interested in opening up their homes. We're trying to generate a lot of interested folks and answer questions about why this might be useful for them.
All right. So if you've lived in Whatcom County, you may be aware of some of the housing challenges that our community currently faces around affordability and vacancy, not only for renters, but for homeowners as well. The cost of living makes it challenging to make ends meet for a lot of folks in our community. And we just wanted to set the stage with some data around, salaries within Whatcom County, as well as the cost of housing or rentals. And Bellingham has a high percentage of young adults and seniors in our community and tend to be the most impacted when the cost of living increases.
So as I mentioned before, the city is really taking a lot of approaches to what we're kind of calling the housing crisis. And everyone in our community is coming at it from different angles to try to solve this issue. Specifically at the City of Bellingham, our Planning and Community Development Department focuses on a lot of different ways that we could maybe address housing. So this can range from the development side, trying to increase permit efficiency, trying to change our zoning, and then it can also range to investments directly in affordable housing. So we're going to look at today just one of those potential tools in our toolbox, which is home sharing.
So we're really zooming in on one of the strategies that the City of Bellingham is putting forward in our community as we work to address our housing crisis, and that is home sharing. Home sharing is not a new concept. However, there's lots of areas around the world where people share their homes with other family members, other members of their community, and travelers. There are places all across the globe where there are programs such as Japan, France, Denmark, and Canada, just to name a few, that actually offer programs to connect intergenerational households together. Home sharing arrangements happen informally all the time within Bellingham. We are a college town, so for a lot of students, this is a great way to be able to access affordable housing. However, what we are going to be really focusing in on today is expanding beyond that population. We are going to be talking a lot about individuals in our community that are ages 55 and older, but doesn't necessarily mean that it is limited to that population.
So why should you share your home? There really are benefits to both the hosts, the people who own the home and are opening their doors to share, and for the renters who may be living there. So the first thing I want to address is affordability, and as part of this really is financial stability. For homeowners, when you're trying to pay your mortgage every month, especially older adults who may be on fixed incomes, any sort of price increase can be detrimental to being able to make those payments. So having someone live and being able to utilize their rent payments to cover part of your monthly mortgage can provide a lot of financial stability to the homeowner. On the renter side, for affordability, specifically through this program, you're able to reduce maybe the rent that you would charge for the room for things like task sharing, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. For the second benefit, efficient use of resources, what's really great about home sharing is you don't have to build any more housing. This already exists. These are homes in our community right now with empty bedrooms that could house people. Just to look at the cost difference, it's estimated that to build a new multifamily apartment complex costs about $400,000 per unit. It's a lot of money. So to be able to tap into a resource that already exists, not only is it better for our environment, but it's a huge cost savings for us to get houses online really fast. And the next piece is arguably the most important part. I think this is the part that especially a lot of our hosts and renters feel. This is the feel good. Companionship is often one of the most talked about benefits of home sharing. Especially after COVID, we've been experiencing a lot of loneliness in our community, isolation. Being able to open up your doors and bring someone into your home can have a lot of benefits for your emotional well-being. Also offering a task sharing service, maybe you need help around your house, and that can be largely beneficial as well. You're creating that community and fostering the help that already exists. You just needed to open up your door.
While college age and young adults make up one of the largest subsets of home sharers in the nation, about 41%. Data has shown that there's a growing interest in adults aged 55 to 64. That's about 30%. So it's actually doubled over the past 15 or so years. And some of the factors that have led to this growing interest are the cost of housing, changing lifestyles, preferences, as well as a desire to age in place. A local survey that was conducted in 2023 showed that 60% of seniors who owned their home would or might be interested in home sharing. And this work was done in partnership with Aging Well Whatcom. So what if part of this housing solution was already available in our community? We decided to take a look at some data for low-income seniors that take advantage of the city's tax exemption. What we found is 1,006 properties within Bellingham have used this tax exemption. And you can see the breakdown of how many bedrooms that each of those 1,006 properties have available. So even if 10% of these properties were to opt into home sharing, that would be a little over 100 extra bedrooms, and that would make it so that 100 or so people could have access to housing, affordable housing.
So as much as I'd like to think that Bellingham is always ahead of the curve, other communities have already adopted programs very similar to what we're bringing here to Bellingham. So during the research portion of this, and we have Kate Bartholomew up at the front here, she did a lot of the legwork researching what other communities have done to see if this is viable to bring to our community. And what we found is that there are tons of jurisdictions across the U.S. who are already implementing home share programs. And that can range from cities to counties to entire states. The entire state of Oregon right now has a home share program, as well as Maine housing. And it's been a beneficial program for a lot of these communities. So we're excited to bring it to Bellingham. And we're doing that through a partnership with Nesterly. So earlier this year, we released a request for proposals seeking a vendor who could offer an online home sharing platform that we could implement in Bellingham. We did have 2 applicants, and the applicant who was most successful and was awarded was Nesterly. They have been around since 2017, and it started in the city of Boston. Boston, although bigger than Bellingham, is pretty similar. They have a vibrant student community and also an aging community. Community members who feel really connected to the place that they live, the community that they're in, and they want to stay there. And it was becoming challenging for them to be able to stay. So when we were working with Nesterly, there were really a few things that stuck out as prominent that's offered in this service. The first, like I mentioned, is the platform itself. And we'll go into a little bit of what that looks like next. But you're able to browse available home listings directly online, similar to maybe what you would see on Airbnb. But these are long-term rentals. The other real benefit about Nesterly is the assistance that they offer. It really goes beyond just browsing a listing and deciding to live there. What they're trying to do is create successful matches, and that means continued assistance throughout the entire process. So yes, they do take the hassle out of the initial portions. They're helping you with the lease. They're helping you do background checks on both the host and the renters, creating customizable lease agreements, but then they're continuing that relationship every single month with check-ins for both the renters and the host to ensure that the matches remain successful. And if by chance anything were to come up, they do offer mediation services to help resolve some of those issues as well. So for us at the city, it really takes a lot of concern off of our chest to be able to know that we have trusted people, housing professionals, working with every single match that's done through this site. And you definitely will not be able to get that through some of these other services like Craigslist or Facebook.
All right, so we've hooked you. You're very interested in sharing your home. Looking at you, I'm looking at you. Or you know someone that you think would be interested and you would like to assist them in navigating this process. So what you can do is start off by going to either the City of Bellingham webpage, or you can go directly to nesterly.com. The website is very easy to navigate, but you can start by going to the upper right-hand corner and finding Bellingham, Whatcom County and selecting that option. From there, you will have the option to either casually browse and see what listings are available if you are looking for a home to rent with someone, or maybe if you are a homeowner, you're interested to see what other homeowners in the community are offering. From there, you can make an account if you're ready to commit. If not, no sweat. When you do create an account as a host, that is when you will begin the background check. So as Taylor said, there's a background check not only for the renter, but for the homeowner as well. So there's that assurance from the renter perspective that they are renting from someone legitimate as well. From there, you've posted your listing, you've gotten some interest, and you would like to see if who you've connected with might be a good fit. What we recommend is either connecting with that potential homeowner or renter is by having a phone call with them or meeting over a video. Or if you feel so inclined, meeting in person as well. But before getting into any kind of formal arrangement, it is encouraged that the two parties meet and see if they're going to be good fit, because you are going to be sharing your home with this individual. And if you've never gone through this process before or lived with other individuals, everybody has their own quirks. I don't know about you, but I certainly do. So it's good to have an open conversation about what you're looking for and what your expectations are. And Nesterly, as you're creating your profile, you're unsure about what you should include, or you think that you have some unique preferences, Nesterly is available via email as well as chat function and phone call to assist you in creating your profile if you're feeling stuck. So you've met with the potential renter or potential host, and you guys are a fabulous hit, and you are ready to go ahead and go into an agreement. From there, Nesterly will draft a draft lease agreement or room share agreement, and it'll be sent for both parties to review to ensure that everybody has their clear expectations lined out. And at that point, you really want to set forward, have everything out in writing. So that is what your stance is on guests, what quiet hours are, if they would have access to a parking spot in the driveway, or any number of preferences. And so they can really help you set that out in the roommate agreement. From there, you would have the application fully completed, so the renter themselves would also complete the background check, and everything is reviewed by Nesterly staff to ensure it's complete and all parties agree. From there, the Nesterly will go ahead and initiate payment for the renter to go ahead and move into the property. And as far as what the timeline might look like for somebody who is browsing for a place to live and to move in, there is it's in Bellingham, if you've searched for housing, you know that those listings can be gone the same day. It's very competitive here. However, with Nesterly, we really want this to be an intentional process that both parties feel great about and that it's going to be a good fit. And so that process might look a little bit longer. So it might take a couple of days to fully draft the agreement, as well as get the payment initiated. Nesterly staff do work Monday through Friday, and so if you do decide to meet with somebody on the weekend and have your agreement set out, it won't be finalized until the next business day. And if there is a holiday, their staff unfortunately will not be available. However, they are working to increase their availability by hiring their first West Coast staff member. So we're very excited to have that availability and accessibility offered to our Bellingham residents.
Okay, we've done a lot of talking. I'm now going to turn it over to our special guest who we're bringing online with us today. I'm going to do a brief introduction before I pass it over to her. I am very, very excited to have Brenda here with us today. What's so great about her joining us is that she can give her firsthand experience. Brenda is a host through Nesterly. She's been a host since 2017, and she's hosted countless guests over the years, and has been a really strong advocate for this program, and also happens to be a very, very delightful person. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pass it over to Brenda. Hi, Brenda.
Hi, everybody. I was going to say good afternoon, but I think it's probably still
It is
Yeah,
morning.
little bit of a
yeah,
time
so
difference here.
a little bit of a time difference. But hello, everyone. I am so pleased to be here to talk with you today and share my experiences. And I feel it's an honor, quite frankly, to be invited to do that. So feel free as I am talking. I'm looking forward to hearing any questions that you might have. I've been a Nesterly host now for 7 years. I was actually the first host in the pilot that they ran in the Boston area. So I have, just a host of all kinds of great experiences, quite frankly, but experiences to be able to share. So, but I want to be able to address what it is you want to know. So I'm hoping that as I talk, I do touch upon those things. And of course, I invite anybody to ask me any questions at any time and for the host to be able to kind of direct me in the direction that makes the most sense. Um, I want to start by just saying to you that the Nesterly and home sharing experience is more than just renting a room. I mean, though that's the nuts and bolts of it, certainly. But I think what you'll find, and as you hear me talk, that the experience goes far beyond that, and it really is a lifestyle choice. And it's a lifestyle choice that helps to solve problems within our communities. It helps to build and strengthen intergenerational relationships, which I love. And it helps to really make us and our communities more age friendly as our populations age. So it touches upon so many different things that just, for me, was a great match. Now, my perspective might be a little bit unique because I'm not only getting older, certainly, uh, but I was a member of, and still am a member of the Age Strong Commission here in Boston, their community advisory committee. So as I was growing older, I was also very much aware of the things that I faced on a daily basis. So it made sense to me when I first heard about this Nesterly project and this Nesterly program that the city of Boston wanted to launch to become a part of it. And you're right, Boston and Bellingham are very similar. When I looked at the presentation, I could identify with everything I saw there. The cost of housing just is astronomical here, and it just keeps rising. We're a college town, as everybody knows, and well over 40%, I think it's like 42, 43% of the students who come to Boston every year live off campus, live in private housing. So that really puts a tremendous, tremendous pressure on the available housing stock that we have. In addition, of course, students will put as many people in a space as they have to be able to afford it. And because they have to find this space, they wind up pushing the cost of living up for everybody else who lives in the city. They now have to compete with what limited stock we have available, and certainly what limited affordable housing stock we have available to be able to exist in the city. So we've got these two populations that actually like each other. It's not that's not a problem, but they certainly are competing, and there is some tension there as it relates to putting pressure on the housing stock. So for the city to think about it and say, well, with many problems, there are opportunities. So what are the opportunities here? What can we do about this? And so that's kind of where Nestle began. I don't want to go overboard in sharing their story, but they, being part of the advisory committee, I kind of knew the background. They were a greenhouse project that came out of MIT, a concept of a young group of college students thought of and said, hey, let's take on, social entrepreneurs. Let's take on some of these challenges that everybody's struggling with, and let's figure out solutions. So I was very proud to be part of that test of whether or not this would be a solution for Boston. And I have to say, after 7 years, I think for me at least, it's been a good solution. And I think for the city, it's also been a good solution. So, I know you're here today because you're interested in knowing more about it. And some people are even interested in doing it themselves and experiencing what home sharing is all about. So I'm going to just kind of walk you through why I decided to do home sharing and what my experiences have been. Uh, I unfortunately was a person that retired prematurely, not by choice, but by changes in the job market, etc. So I was quite frankly too old to be able to really know that I was going to go back into the workforce and find a job that of the same type nature that I had and continue on with the career, etc. So I really looked at my situation and had to say to myself, okay, this is where you're at. So where are you going to go? How are you going to make this work for you? I uh, live in an older home built in the 1800s. that needs constant repair, constant maintenance. I can appreciate a lot of people think older people don't have mortgages to pay. Well, I heard earlier, and that's absolutely correct. We do have mortgages to pay. We refinance to be able to do all those renovations while we're young, and we continue to have those needs. So I had all of these expenses that I was facing, and I said, well, how am I going to be able to do this? How am I going to make sure that I can stay in my home, which I absolutely love, in my community, which I absolutely love, as I go forward? I was living in an environment that had probably four rooms that could be used as bedrooms. You know, as us empty nesters get rooms, we kind of change their character and their nature. But if you count them up, you realize what they could be used for. So I realized I had a potential there and went forward and said, okay, this Nesterly thing sounds interesting. I've never done any type of home sharing before. I've never even had roommates, even in college. I was a very independent person. Certainly, I shared my home with family as they grew up. But other than that, my home was just that, my home. So I was a little unsure about what I should do and how to go about it. So the thought of bringing in people into my home, while it was a thought, it was never something I was ready to move on. I was just too unsure about it, too, what if, when I don't know. And so I share that with you only because it is a very important foundational piece knowing that you have a city that's interested in the best interest of the residents and making sure that they can do something that's going to fit their needs and that they are willing to step forward and kind of put together a program and oversee a program designed specifically for that, and knowing that you're going to be working with a company that also is invested in the long-term viability of what they're offering as a solution to a problem. So they are really going to be out there and put themselves forward to make sure that it's a success was really what made the difference for me, to be honest with you, that made me cross over from saying, oh, well, I don't know, and I'm not sure. No, it was, oh, it's time. This is an opportunity. You need to get on board and try it. That's how I wound up being the first one, because I guess I realized straight out after processing it in my head for many years that this was an opportunity to try it. So 7 years ago, I had a young man from Greece come to my home. He spent 6 months in Boston. He studied architecture at MIT, and it was the most delightful experience. I didn't know what to expect. I can tell you that he set the standard, as far as I'm concerned, for the type of person you'd want to share your home with. Uh, we still maintain contact. As his parents even invited me to come to Greece at one time. So that was kind of nice. Couldn't do it, but it was kind of COVID hit and everything else. But it was kind of nice to know that they appreciated what I had to offer and the relationship that I was able to build with their son and the comfort that he was able to build being here with my home in my home. And I think that's an important thing to point out as well, because I've heard it far too often from the students who live with me, is how important it is to them to be able to be in a community environment. Many of them don't really want to be in the academic on-campus environment. They really do want to be in community and interact with people. They don't want to be part of a problem in a community. They want to be part of a community. So helping them find ways to do that is also very beneficial to them. Um, so it was finances that drove me to home sharing. Short and simple. It was, how am I going to go forward? How am I going to be able to afford to pay my bills? And housing can be a tremendous pressure on people, not only youth, but as we grow older. So I understood that. I did not want to become at risk of saying, okay, here today you have your own home, tomorrow you're on the streets. So with that said, as I mentioned, got a young man from Greece. He worked out great. I can tell you stories about we cooked together. We would have occasional meals because he would travel and he'd be busy doing other things, but we'd have occasional meals. We'd share stories about certainly the values that we have here in America, but also the African American experience. And we talk about soul food and we talk about all kinds of things. He would talk about Greece and all that. I love Greek food, all that wonderful food and make great Greek salads. And Christmas time, we actually decided to share a preparation of a Christmas dinner. So I did the turkey and the stuffing with an influence on the other pieces were more traditionally the soul food piece of it, the sweet potatoes, the collard greens, if anybody knows anything about these delicious items, etc. He was in there making his grandmother's, I loved it, cookies and, Greek delicacies. And just the room was so full of the aromas of all of these various cultures that were converging and coming together and the stories that we shared. And I understood then that not only were we building a relationship, but we were really building bridges that I wish could spread out a little bit further, but they do. They actually do as we interact and come together. So I realized that there was another opportunity there to say, okay, not only is this an intergenerational sharing, but it's an international sharing. Boston attracts a lot of international students. So in my case, while I do have students from all over the country, I've yet to do home sharing with someone who was local to the Boston area. Everybody who's come to my home has traveled a distance to be here. So I'm going to ask you to kind of direct me because I realize I'm rambling a little bit here. I want to make sure that I have the interest of the audience. Can I just ask for a little feedback and input in terms of the direction what
You're
you'd like to hear?
Yes, thank you so much, Brenda. You're doing great. You're not rambling. I think everyone is really, really interested to hear your experience. I'll start off with a couple prompts and then I'll turn it over to the audience. But you mentioned briefly about your connection to your home and owning your home and the maintenance that's required. And I just wondered if you could talk a little bit more about how home sharing specifically has allowed you to stay in your home over the years and how your relationship to where you've lived in different parts of your home have changed and home sharing's accommodated that for you.
Now, that was an amazing piece. I have to share that part of how over the years things had changed. Like again, I started with a financial need, it grew, and I just thought of home sharing as a single package of you do this and that happens. Well, I personally started I have a three-story townhouse, traditional straight up townhouse. Uh, I initially started with my bedroom on the third floor. Well, now I'm on the first floor. S- I'm on the first floor because I'm aging. I begin to develop mobility issues. I couldn't do the stairs any longer. Um, but with that, which was a major, major challenge to me, but within that, so my shared spaces are on the second and third floor. As I begin to move, I first moved from the third floor to the second floor to the first floor. As I begin to do that, I realized from a home sharing perspective that it created, it opened more opportunities, bring more people into the home, begin to address the needs that I had. I now live, quite frankly, it's really an independent apartment, even though it's open and I still share space upstairs. They come downstairs to visit with me. So I say that to say that home sharing can grow as you grow or change as you change. So even if you see it in one way right now, if your needs change, home sharing can change along with you, if that makes any sense.
It does. Thank you, Brenda. It's great to hear that it's allowed you to stay in the home that you love and make those accommodations over time as your needs have changed. My last question before I am going to turn it over to the audience is, if you had any advice that you could give to people who may be on the fence about deciding to open up their home for home sharing, what would you say?
Well, I would say first look at within yourself and ask yourself, what are your concerns? And be willing to be honest with yourself. And then when you do that, be willing to address those concerns. Because a lot of, I talk to people and they say, oh, well, I don't want anybody touching my stuff. Yeah, okay. But for people who are maybe because I don't know how to start, well, then there are supports out there. There are people out there that can help you. There are programs out there that can help you. You're not alone. You're not alone. So if your concerns are about how do I do it? How do I go forward? You've got that support network. And I have to tell you that Nesterly has been a great support for me. I don't use them that often. It's knowing that they are there. And if I do need them, they do respond. I've probably only had the need over 7 years, quite frankly, to reach out to them once or twice to say, oh, can you help me with this? But knowing that they are there to do that makes a huge difference. I also think that having them there to do kind of that behind the scenes work that has to be done, the vetting, the contract preparation, the even the handling of the rent payment, etc. That kind of, I didn't realize it would do that, but it kind of frees me up to really then invest myself where I like to be, which is in building the relationships and enjoying the people that are in my home. Now, I say be open, be flexible. So I am willing to listen. You got a complaint, I'm willing to listen to you. Uh, if I've got a complaint, I'm willing to tell you. You have to be able to be open with people. Uh, do not hesitate whatsoever. Don't be afraid to say yes. Don't be afraid to say no. Be clear about your expectations. You can't expect that somebody, especially I deal with people from all over the world. So how I live and how we live here in Boston and Massachusetts, etc., they may not have a clue. And if that be the case, that's all right too. You just have a conversation and you talk and you exchange and they get it. I had a situation where, quite frankly, I have two people from France. And it came to my attention that every now and then they're twins. Uh, I guess one would forget the key and they'd stick it under a rock, kind of outside the house. Just as a loose example, that's not exactly it, but I had to sit them down and say, "Oh no, 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 we don't do that. No, that's not going to happen." Oh, well, in France, we do it all the time. Well, that may be the case, but here, that's not going to happen. You got to be able to have those conversations. I get it. I get it. So I would definitely say be open, be flexible, um, set your boundaries. If you've got boundaries, let them know. If your boundaries are, and be flexible on those boundaries. I have a house rule that says no overnight guests. Does that really mean that there are no overnight guests? No, not at all. But what it means is I am not going to have to confront someone who's been in my home for 30 days that, thinks maybe, oh, well, it's okay. I'm going to bring in a roommate. No, you're not. Because my policy is no overnight guests. And so great that you can have them, but that prevents some other situations that could happen at a later date. So just be set your expectations and then be able to be flexible about your rules and regulations because all you're really trying to do is manage a home that's going to be comfortable for you, comfortable for everybody else that's there, safe and secure. And they get it. I have to say, they get it. They appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Brenda. It's been so amazing to hear from your perspective and to tell the truth behind it, which is inevitably there's going to be things that come up in room share agreements. Anytime you have roommates or people in your home, even your family, there are things that come up and maybe boundaries are crossed time to time. And having open and honest conversations about that usually leads to success. So it's great to hear that from your point of view. We are going to turn it over if anyone else has any other questions for Brenda or for us, and we can kind of keep this pretty informal, but just raise your hand if you have a question. We'll come to you.
Start here, then go there.
Hi, I'm sorry. It's not really a question for Brenda. It's a question for you guys. How does this all work with current Washington state law renting rules, especially around 60-day notice, payment of rent if you kick them out, if they don't get another place, that kind of stuff? How does that work with those rules?
The short answer is they have to follow all of the Washington state laws, everything related to the Fair Housing Act. The slight difference is sharing a room in your home. You can be a little more selective about who you may want to join in your space. Otherwise, everything needs to follow all of those rules.
Hi, my name's Dustin. I work for a local social service provider, the Opportunity Council. And I was just curious, Brenda, and also to the city, if there's been any experiences working with housing tenants that are on subsidies or connecting with local service providers to, get connected with that particularly vulnerable population to get them housed in order to, really address the affordability crisis locally.
For the history of Nesterly, this is something that we've asked them if they've worked with other jurisdictions that have allowed Section 8 vouchers and things like that. To date, they have not, but that's not because they're not allowed to. It just hasn't come up yet. So we're interested to see if that would come up in our city as well.
And I'll talk a little bit about the subsidy piece. So depending on the type of subsidy, they may be allowed to rent a room. So for instance, HEN, Housing and Essential Needs, that particular subsidy does have the ability to rent a room. However, there are a lot of other subsidies and public assistance that may not allow it. And so I think it just becomes a little bit more challenging to utilize those types of supports in these settings. That being said, of course, if there is an individual that is wanting to go this route and have a home sharing option and their service provider is in support of it, as well as the homeowner, we would be happy to support that. However, there are also a number of other options in the community that are hopefully available. And one thing about this particular program is that it's not necessarily targeted towards people experiencing homelessness or people experiencing housing stability, but it is just another option available among the housing spectrum. So for individuals who are in the workforce that are looking, a lot of folks who work at nonprofits also struggle to find appropriate housing. So this may be a good option for them as well. And so, yeah, this is just another option among the housing spectrum for folks. Okay.
Hi, Brenda. This is Marcia. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. So I have a kind of a personal question. You mentioned family. What was your family's response when you said you were going to start doing this?
Well, hi, Marcia. I'm going to start with my sister's name is Marcia. So a coincidence. I think, well, they shared my concern, fear of the unknown. What are you getting yourself into? They were supportive. A lot of times, especially in this day, we have both two things happening as it relates to family relationships. A lot of people are coming back home into those quote empty nester environments and reestablishing themselves, and others have their own home environment, and that's where they'll be. And in my family is more of that structure, so that I really was aging in place in a large space that was underutilized. Um, so while they had concerns about, is this a good idea, safety, those type of things, they were also very supportive because they understood that I was here alone, and that and they knew of other people as well as I knew of other people. So having somebody else in the house seemed to be a good idea if it was the right choice. Um, but the whole Nesterly model, because I don't take in people for long term, for example, I tend to target the academic year. Uh, I did my first 3 month re- share this summer, and it worked out beautifully. A young lady from New York who had an internship here and reached out to me at the last minute to say, I saw you on Nesterly. I know you don't, but would you be interested? And my first thought was, oh, she's never going to get any place in Boston this late. And there was something about her that, when I talked with her, so I said, sure, uh, I'll do a 3 month rental. So I do turn over people a lot. I forget, I did do a head count of how many people I've had in my home, but um, I don't remember the number, but I'll say about approximately 10 at this point. Whereas, for example, the unit that I'm now in on the first floor was occupied for 30 years by the same person. I'm not used to flipping people. So even that experience for me is a new one, but it seems to work, and my family is very comfortable with it as well.
Thanks so much, Brenda. Any other questions?
Hi, my name is Christopher. I have some experience with home sharing in the last 30 years. There have been twice my wife and I have rented a room to Western students. The experience was wonderful, and the primary qualification that we need in a possible tenant is that my wife likes her. But I have a special need, and that is that my wife now has dementia. And I'm not saying that I need somebody who could be a caregiver, just somebody to help out around the house, cooking, cleaning, and that sort of thing. That's all that I would be asking for. However, if you're living in the house with someone who has dementia, you might have to be a special kind of person. And how do I find such a person?
Interview these people. Be honest about your needs and your expectations. I've seen listings, even I want to say on Nesterly, here in the Boston area, where people were, the basic structure is you get a percentage off of your rent for chores around the house, where they were giving much deeper discounts because they had people in their home environment that they wanted a more supportive type of piece of maybe some aspect of caregiving, not medical, not anything like that, but some aspect of some basic level of aspect of caregiving. So I have seen those listings. Uh, I, I don't have experience directly in that myself. So, but the only thing I can say is be honest and upfront and sharing, and you should definitely talk face to face with people once, maybe even twice or more, however long it takes and whatever you need. That would be my only piece of input I think I could provide.
Thank you, Brenda. The other thing I would add is using Nesterly as a resource for this too. I do want to reiterate we're not the purpose of this program really isn't that caregiving side, as Brenda's mentioned and others have mentioned, but Nesterly understands that everyone's situation is very unique, and that's what they're for. They're there to help find that perfect match. They're really looking for quality matches rather than a lot of matches, and those are the same goals that we have as this from the city's perspective as well. We really want to make sure that these matches are working for both parties, and rushing into something and selecting someone who may not be that perfect fit isn't the right solution when you're opening up your house.
Hi, my name's Aiden. I work for the Whatcom Dispute Resolution Center. And you talked a little bit about Nesterly being able to offer some mediation services if there was conflict to arise. I guess could you speak a little bit more to like the scope of that and whether they have in-person mediation available and kind of how far they can take it if you were to have a conflict with your tenant?
To answer your question about in-person mediation services, unfortunately not. Right now, they actually did just relocate. The CEO is in Vancouver, BC, so she's sort of local, and just a hop and skip away. Primarily before this, they were working on the East Coast, and they still have a lot of staff on the East Coast. They are a modest staff, I will say, but they're customer service representatives are not just there, to solve miniature issues. They do have backgrounds in housing professional services. Lots of them are trained in this way, and that's what they're looking for their staff. So they may not be trained specifically in mediation, but they do have that background in housing support. And truthfully, I don't think that they have to use that side very often. I think what they really do is proactive work. They're making sure that before any matches are made, that the matches are intentional and that both parties are very happy. Of course, it may not always end that way. So they are there to offer those services over the phone, over email, over chat, over video chat, but unfortunately not in person. It would be great to talk about ways that we could collaborate on that. Thank you.
So I'm here as a renter, to be a renter. And you speak about renting rooms. Are there any other sort of spaces that are offered?
Yeah, that's a great question. Although the service is really tailored to opening up a room in your house, we've actually seen a lot of interest already with the city of offering ADUs. So mother-in-law suites available that are private. And there's actually a listing available right now in Bellingham on the Nesterly website that is an accessory dwelling unit. And I think that goes to show our community here has been taking advantage of our flexibility of our ADU regulations. And as more are being constructed, homeowners are really looking for the right match, and using a service like this can provide that assurance that they need, rather than just listing it on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. They're able to use the Nesterly service to find a more intentional match.
Rental insurance. Does the person staying in the home have to get that separately from the owners?
That would be a case-by-case basis. So really, whatever the homeowner decides is kind of required as part of that. That's why Nesterly is really great. They work with the homeowner and the renter to customize the lease specific to that situation. So if the homeowner would require the renter to have renter's insurance, then that would be indicated within the lease. That's definitely not a requirement on our end, or a baseline requirement from Nesterly, but it could be the decision of the homeowner. Brenda, do you require any tenants to have homeowner or to have renter's insurance or any other types of background things that maybe isn't in just the standard template for the Nesterly lease agreement?
No, I actually don't. It's something to consider, absolutely, but I don't.
Good to know. Thank you. Looks like we have another question.
Does Nesterly handle lease violations or notices to vacate, or is that up to the individual homeowners?
Did you
I'm going to
want
have Kathleen take this one. But Brenda, if you have experience with any of that, please share.
Okay, well, let's let Kathleen address it first.
So, as far as any sort of lease violations or notice to vacate, what we would like to see happen with both the owner and the renter is that they would be checking in with Nesterly staff to navigate those challenges before they come to a head. I'm personally unaware of if they've had to go that far as that level of support, but that's an answer I can reach out to Nesterly and see if they have had history of that for you. And I can go ahead and email that answer to you as well. So.
The other thing I'll add that's been mentioned by Brenda and I think Kathleen earlier is although these are long, they're not short-term rentals, it's very common for these to be shorter than maybe an average lease of a 12-month period. Brenda's utilized this, 3 months and 6 months. I think we see that's very common, even a month-to-month type of lease agreement. When someone is opening up their home, it allows them the flexibility to decide when it may no longer be working for them, or if maybe they want a new person to move in. So that would be established by the homeowner.
I did face one challenge one time that Nestle took complete care of, and it was just an unfortunate situation for me. I had a death in the family, and trying to handle that, plus a new person who wanted to come on board that began to show signs of really not understanding the contract that we had already signed. And my headspace couldn't deal with it, quite frankly. They saw the communications going back and forth, and they took care of it for me. That's all I can really say about it. They took care of it for me. So what they did, I can't tell you, but they took care of it for me. So they are there to try to support. And trust me, I know in taking care of it for me, they also made sure they took care of the needs of that potential guest. I don't feel like they just took care of it. I felt like they did a balanced perspective of taking care of it. But on my end, because I was in such an emotional distraught situation, I didn't have the headspace to take care of it at all. So.
That's great to hear that they offered that level of support for you. And certainly that's one of the things we were so grateful to have when Nesterly applied as part of our request for proposals is finding a vendor who would be able to work so closely to handle some of these issues. So thank you. And as Kathleen said, we are actually past time a little bit. It's been so great to have you with us, Brenda. Thank you for your time and for Zooming in with us today. And thank you all for joining us.